In this video, we're going to be talking about how to set up a field note form for a multiple case study. So let's get started. All right, so let's get into this. How do I set up a field note form for a multi-case study? You're looking at an example right in front of you, and I am going to walk you through this. So first of all, let's start in the upper left-hand corner. You want to put the date. You may want to put the location. If you're in the same location every time, you probably don't need that. And you might want to put context. So context could be some keywords or 1 to 2 sentences that just kind of situates where you are that day, and it would jog your memory and bring you back to that moment in time when you're going back through your field notes at a later date. There might be some other things you want to put up there, but those are the key things that I definitely recommend. Now, starting in the left-hand column, you will see I've got time. Right? I like to document what happened at what time, right? Lets me remember the flow and rhythm of the day. It also lets me see how long certain activities happened, how long maybe somebody engaged in a particular behavior, or how long an activity or an event took place. Now, one of the things with multi-case studies is that a danger that's a really real danger is that you can kind of get engrossed in what maybe 1 or 2 people are doing and forget and not pay attention as closely to somebody else, all right? I want to mitigate that. So you'll notice that I've got 8:40 written there as the time. And this is just something that I made up. This is completely fictitious. But if this form was to go on, right, you would see 8:40, 8:50, 9 o'clock, 9:10, right? You'd see these 10-minute blocks of time that are always on there, okay? And what happens is every time I hit one of those 10-minute blocks, like it's 8:40, okay, when we get to 8:50, I'm going to make sure I check in with each one of my participants and write down what they're doing, right? It sort of helps re-situate me, it resets my brain, and it helps me make sure that I'm not too engrossed with 1 or 2 people and ignoring somebody else, all right? So I do that, and then in between those blocks of 10-minute blocks of time, people are gonna do stuff, right? And I'm gonna document the time and write what it is that they do. Now, by and large, I'm only documenting what happens as it relates to my research question. But I will also, if there's like a transitional event, right, or we change context, sort of shifts in some way, right, I'm going to document that even if it doesn't have anything to do with my research question, just so I can know, hey, the context shift here, the focus of my participants shifted here. All right, so then let's take a look at what I write. All right, again, completely fictitious, but I don't write person 1, 2, and 3. I will give everybody pseudonyms, and I will write those pseudonyms in, okay, for their names. So person number 1 is the teacher. I've done a lot of my field research in school, so I just kept this very basic with teacher and students. And so you can see the teacher is explaining the overview for today's class, and I need to transcribe that. So I don't need to transcribe everything everybody says, but I do need to transcribe things that clearly relate or that I think might relate to my research question. Sometimes I'm able to get that. Sometimes I'm not, right? And so when I'm not, I just need to make a note and flag it in some way. So I would actually recommend highlighting that or doing something so that it stands out and you know it's something you need to go back to correct, fill out in some way. All right. Then when you look at person number 2, you can see that what I wrote there is sitting at desk, looking towards teacher, is quiet. Notice what I didn't write, okay? I did not say person number 2 is listening to the teacher, or I did not say person number 2 is paying attention. I wrote down only what person number 2 did. Now, those behaviors suggest that that person is likely to be listening and paying attention, but I don't really know. That person could be thinking about lunch. I don't know, okay? The only way that I could know is if I went and said to that person, hey, what did the teacher say was the overview for today's class? And see what kind of response I get, right? Then I can make a conclusion, right? Because then I can say, here's what that person told me, therefore they were or were not listening. And then you can see the same thing with person number 3, digging through notebook, talking to student next to her. That suggests that person is not paying attention, that person is not listening. That's a reasonable inference, but that's not what goes on this form. What goes on this form is only things that I see and hear, okay? Now, you could make another column that has inferences and questions, right? And that's what you could call it, and make it very explicit that these are my questions, these are my inferences, right? This is not what I saw, this is not what I heard. This is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm wondering. I think that's fine, right? You can even do it in that box right there, right? I could at the end, sitting at desk, looking towards teacher is quiet. I could write inference, seems to be paying attention, right? Or I could write question. The student seems to be paying attention. Are they really, right? You just want to extract that. If you're making an inference or a question, you just want to extract that from those field notes in some way. So there's a clear delineation between what you saw and what you heard, what you can actually say you know, and what's an inference or a question that you have that you can't really confirm yet that you do know. All right. So this is just an example to get you started. There's obviously other people are going to have different ways that they approach this. So if you've got questions or other ways that you approach doing a multi-case study field note form, head on down to the comments. I would love to hear more.